Hello and welcome to another episode of Taylor Talks Comics. Today I've got a couple boxes that I'm going to unpack for you, some new books that I'm adding to the library, so stay tuned. And we're back. So first I'm going to open up this one. While I'm opening it, if you can give the video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already subscribed, and yeah, share the video with your friends, all your comic book loving friends. So this was a set of books that I bought from somebody on a Facebook group. And they're all of one cartoonist that I've always really enjoyed, and Fantagraphics has been doing a really good job of collecting all their works. I'd say this is one of the more interesting ways I've seen books packed, but hey, they all seem to be safe in here, so I'm not complaining. But yeah, Fantagraphics, my favorite publisher of comics, the best publisher of comics. It's been doing a great job reprinting a lot of this cartoonist's works, and everything I've read from this cartoonist I've absolutely loved and adored. So now I'm in the process of trying to collect all of the Fantagraphics books they come out with. And so there's a guy that buys and sells books online too, comic books specifically. It's always interesting trying to package books for people too, when you don't have packaging material, because that stuff can get expensive too. Like I said, if the gentleman that sold these to me is watching, these are very nicely packed. The books are safe, that's all that matters. I don't care how ugly the packaging itself looks. But it's always interesting trying to scrap to find things to package the books with, because what you're really trying to do when you're selling books online is making sure the books don't shift around too much upon delivery, because it's like that scene from Ace Ventura, where he's like, in the intro scene, where he's acting like he's like the UPS guy and he's like kicking that box around. You have no idea how people are handling these packages, so you just want to try to make sure the books don't shift around at all. If you do that, you're pretty well safe as far as, you know, get them out without too much damage. And on top of that, I'm not super precious with my books. I mean, I want them to look nice and be in nice shape, but I'm not one to get upset or cry foul if a book has like a ding in the corner or something. The books are meant to be read anyways. Especially if you can save some money on books that way, get a good deal on them. That's even better. Okay, so there's 5 books in this set by Jacques Tardi, the French cartoonist. But yeah, Fantagraphics has been doing a great job putting this Jacques Tardi library together. I'll show off the spines here real quickly. That's what they look like on the shelf together. Of course, on the shelf these would be, because these are a different trim size, but they'd be more like that. But yeah, let's just go through each of them. I don't know which order these go in or not, whatnot. On my channel, I'll probably do a video later after I've read these and do a little bit more deeper dive into Jacques Tardi and what makes him so great. But they are black and white. Most of his works are, but not all. He does have some color comics, especially in his later years. I'm not sure. This is West Coast Blues. This is one of his crime comics, which he does a lot of. I don't know when this originally was published. If I can find the answer here. This book came out in 2009, but the original contents came out. Oh, Rich Tommaso did the lettering. That's cool. Like the English lettering. It doesn't say when this originally came out. But it could be when it was earlier. Even Ed Brubaker, for any crime comics fans out there, he blurbed it. And Howard Chaykin, another crime comics cartoonist. Next one is Run Like Hell. Run Like Crazy, Run Like Hell. I'm sorry. And that was written by, both these were written by Jean Patrick Manchette. And then Jacques Tardi is just the one doing the cartooning. Another Howard Chaykin blurb on this one. This one is also in black and white. But really great cartooning. And the thing I love about Jacques Tardi is that his characters always look kind of they look cartoony in his cartooning. But the landscapes and the backdrops and the cars and all that stuff all looks realistic. But then the people look kind of cartoony, which is also interesting when you juxtapose that with how violent a lot of his comics can be. It's just a really great kind of interesting pairing of that. Here's another Jean Patrick Manchette written story with Jacques Tardi on the artwork. This one's like a sniper lining up his shot. No blurbs on the back, but this is another crime comic. If you're into like crime comics though, like an Ed Brubaker or Brian Michael Bendis, his early stuff, Greg Rucka, those sorts that are kind of the contemporary masters of crime comics. You got to throw in Sean Phillips' name too, who often collaborates with Ed Brubaker. I definitely give these a shot. Jacques Tardi, if you want to give, him a shot. But these are all the same trim size, but they are different than these next two books, which I don't know if I can. They're like the same height, I guess. But then these are a little bit wider on these next two books. This one is Goddamn This War. This was actually released in a box set with War in the Trenches was the other one. And Jacques Tardi's war comics are some of the best war comics I've ever read. I highly, highly recommend these. I actually owned this before with War in the Trenches, but during one of my purges I sold them, and then obviously I've regretted it because I want to buy them again. But this is all done in like a 3-panel grid. I guess in modern day we call this widescreen comics. Like Brian Hitch kind of made that nomenclature famous, but also makes me reminds me of Darwin Cook on New Frontier, on DC Comics New Frontier. But this is something that Jacques Tardi would do frequently in his later comics, and obviously you can see this one is in color as well. But his war comics are really, really brutal. They show you like definitely the horrors of war. It reminds me a lot of Harvey Kurtzman's war comics. And another contemporary name, Garth Ennis, if you're familiar with his war comics, definitely reminds me of that as well. So if you're into war comics and you want one that's like a serious depiction of how there are no winners in war, that there's definitely horrors throughout war on both sides, no matter what side you're on, this is definitely one I'd recommend. And then also has a lot of this like historical stuff in the back that tells you where he got a lot of the inspiration from. And this is all just, I guess Jean-Pierre Villeneuve is credited as well. I was going to say that's all Tardi, but I was wrong. This is New York Mon Amour. Jacques Tardi, Benjamin Legrand, and Dominique Grange are credited on this one. And it's New York, as you've never seen it before. So yes, Jacques Tardi is from France, as I said earlier. But this is like I've never read this one before, but this has always been pitched as being a very great representation of New York. And it's got this it's black and white, but it's got these spots of color throughout that really depict very specific things that he's trying to convey in the story, which sounds really awesome. But it reminds me of like Woody Allen, New York. People always talk about Woody Allen's New York and his movies and how he depicted New York in the most accurate way. New Yorkers always credit him or praised him for that. And then this comic has been praised for a very similar thing, which is interesting because it's from someone that's not from New York. So that's the Jacques Tardi, those 5 books adding to my collection. And then my other box that I got came from In Stock Trades. And they all also have a similar theme to them. But not Jacques Tardi. These are from Dark Horse Comics. Open this up. Did order from In Stock Trades before. They package the books very, very nicely. As you can see, it's all surrounded by bubble wrap. These books are not going anywhere. They're not moving. And also, when I sell books, I can reuse the packaging, which is great. So yes, you probably already caught a glimpse of these. But these are the last 3 Black Hammer books that I was missing. And I bought these in preparation because this one just came out. The Black Hammer Library Edition Volume 3. And I'm going to update my reading order, because if you are curious about Black Hammer, which you should be, because it's, for my money, the best superhero comics that come out this century, with my hyperbolic praise I'm giving it, then I do have a reading order on my channel, but that was after there's only like 4 or 5 library editions. And now we are up to 10 total books that will be in the new reading order that I'm filming. And I'll probably be releasing that reading order tomorrow, I'm thinking. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you're curious about Black Hammer. But I will show off these books as a little preview. And explain why I broke down and finally bought 2 of them. Because I originally discovered Black Hammer back in the day and first read it as a trade paperback, the first one that came out. Jeff Lemire, I told a story on my channel quite a bit, is solely like one of the main reasons for me getting back into comics. I grew up reading comics constantly as a kid, even before I could read. I was borrowing my older brother's comics and just flipping through them. But my early 20s, I spent like 5 years out of comics, not reading a single thing. And then when I came back to comics, went to the comic book store. My wife bought me a gift certificate for LCS. And I got Roughneck from Jeff Lemire. I went home, read it in one sitting, loved it. And then the rest of my birthday weekend, I went out comic book shops and half-price books looking for anything I could find with Jeff Lemire's name on it. Black Hammer is one of the things that I came upon from that discovery and loved it. And since I've decided to only get the library editions, they're these beautiful oversized books. This is the 3rd one, so let's talk about that first. And this is the 3rd Black Hammer library edition. So this is volume 3 on the side. But they are 5 World of Black Hammer library editions. So if these library editions that have the same trade dress and match this trade dress, there are 8 of those. And then there's the other 2 books I'm going to show off in a second here. And then you'll be all caught up. There is a subsequent series that Jeff Lemire has been working on called Black Hammer The End, which has not been released in library edition just yet, but I'm sure it will be. And it appears that he's continuing on writing that. I love that. The end papers for the mainline series, the 3 volumes, always has the birds there. But yeah, this is just a what I call it is a reconstructionist superhero comic. So you always hear about deconstructionist superhero comics like The Dark Knight Returns and Watchmen and those kinds of things. This is like a reconstructionist superhero comic where I feel like Jeff Lemire took Andy Normston, who's not in this one, but I think he did do the collection. He always does the collection covers. But he's also the artist on the main line series for the first 2 library editions. But I feel like Dean and Jeff Lemire took the concepts that all those writers, Alan Moore, Garth Ennis, Frank Miller, that all deconstructed superheroes, with the idea that what's next? What's the next for superheroes to be reconstructed? And I think Jeff Lemire has the best answer to that question. So this is Library Edition Volume 3, and this includes Black Hammer Reborn 1 through 12, I think. Yeah, covers by Dean Ormston. Yes, okay. So it includes Black Hammer Reborn 1 through 12, and then also includes Inspector Insector in the Case of the Electric Boy Parts 1 through 4, which is by the aforementioned Rich Tomaso, who did the lettering on one of those Jacques Tardi books. How serendipitous. These library editions are beautiful. Underneath the dust jacket exactly matches what is on the dust jacket. The only thing you're missing is the flaps, which just has some blurbs and then a biography of Jeff Lemire and Dean Ormston. These other two books, I finally broke down and bought. So this book came out a few years ago, and it came out as a standard size hardcover, and which is weird because before that, the process for releases for Black Hammer was a trade paperback, and then they would either compile two of the trade paperbacks. Well, yeah, I guess every library edition would compile 2 trade paperbacks. So you had options of whether you want that or that, the trade paperback or the library edition. This was the first standard size hardcover they came out with, and I was confused. And then the Visions, Black Hammer Visions, came out in standard size hardcovers as well. And all 3 of those, I was like, are these not going to be in library editions? Because why would they do hardcovers if they were going to be? Well, the Visions ones, the 2 Visions, eventually got compiled into World of Black Hammer Volume 5. And so I have that one. You get a little cameo from the shadow of my cat here. And this has not been released in a library edition, and I don't know if it will be. So I went in and bought it. If it does get released in a library edition, I'll certainly sell this or gift it to a friend and then buy the library edition. And it's not because this is Black Hammer Justice League. I guess I should, you could see that on the screen, but I should introduce it as such. Even though it does include a DC license and it's done in cooperation with DC, I think that, or it's not unthinkable for it to be in a library edition because we do have recent history of that. Madman, the library editions for Michael Allred's Madman, one of them includes the Superman crossover. So it's not unthinkable, and I hope it does. But I haven't read this yet. I've been holding off buying this because hoping it'd be in a library edition one day, and it has not been. So I'm excited to read this. Before I do the reading order, I will read all 3 of these books to make sure that I know what I'm talking about. But that's what the trade dress looks like too on those Visions books as well, and that's important to note for this next book because this is Colonel Weird in Little Andromeda, and as you can see, the same trade dress as the Justice League one, but it's much larger. So what is happening here? So when I first saw this was coming out, I was like, oh, okay, it's just another miniseries. It'll end up in a library edition one day. But it came out in this library trim size. Like it's the same trim size as the library edition. So this is a very weird release, in my opinion, because it's the first time that we've gotten a hardcover for Black Hammer done in the trim size of a library edition that's not called the library edition. And also the trade dress on the spine and everything matches what the Visions and the Black Hammer Justice League standard size hardcovers look like. So it's very confusing, and I don't know if, since it's already library sized, if this means we won't get this compiled into a library edition. I'd love for these 2 just to be thrown into a library edition. That'd be fantastic. And I probably would rebuy it that way. But anyways, I wanted to do the reading order. I love Colonel Weird. He's like my favorite character from the series. And there's a bunch of different artists that work on this book. As Colonel Weird, it looks like he's traveling through Little Andromeda, which sounds like a reference to Dr. Andromeda and the... was it the Lost Tomorrows? What is it? Dr. Andromeda and the Kingdom of Lost Tomorrows. So this is a recommended reading order. I wonder if this has... No, it's not updated. So I will be following that to a degree when I do my reading order. But yeah, so this is Colonel Weird, Little Andromeda, Black Hammer Justice League, Black Hammer Volume 3, Library Edition. And then also earlier we got New York Monomore. I can't do French, sorry. Goddamn This War, Like a Sniper Lining Up a Shot, Run Like Crazy, Run Like Hell, and West Coast Blues. And that's my haul for today. Thank you guys for watching. Please comment down below if you have any questions or comments about any of these books. I'd love to talk about that. I always reply to comments. Give the video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you guys for watching.